everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie and this is all about my life after gastric bypass surgery, and today's video is my 23-month post-op update. If you've been around here a while, you will have noticed that I just didn't put any effort in today and that I've also missed a week in my uploads. And honestly, I mean, it's one of those situations where I've been so busy. Does anyone really want to hear me talk about being stressed and busy all the time anymore? But I've been so busy and so like go all the time that the moment that stopped and I didn't have a lot on my plate, I just lost a lot of desire to do anything. I feel like I just hit this point where I needed to just relish in the fact that I didn't have something on my plate. And although I had time to film a video and move forward with the things that I, do as hobbies and that I want to do, I didn't want to do it. So that's where we're at. And today, all day, I have been wanting actually to film this video and move things forward. I rolled out of bed and just did all of the work that I had to do today from home and didn't shower or put myself together in any way. I realized that the later it got, the more I had zero desire to do that. And I have no business trying to impress you people. So here I am in all of my natural glory, just trying to get through the day. And I think a lot of us can relate to that, especially this time of year. It feels like it's the more fun time of year, and when things are happening and, you get to spend time with friends and family way more than normal. But at the same time, it starts to ramp up with like feelings of obligation and things going on. And so I think just surviving this time of year is something we can all relate to. So as I alluded on my community tab, I was originally going to post a video in between this last week about Halloween candy specifically, and just kind of touching base on that. I'm going to wrap that in with this whole update because I feel like that was a pretty big part of the last couple of weeks of October. So that's a pretty good place to start, I think, for my October update. When it comes to updates on my stats, I'll go into that first really quick. I'm not going to be super scientific about it. I mean, I did like take numbers and stuff, but I'm not putting that here. I'm not going out of my way to do anything above and beyond, especially because the numbers have not changed in a long time. If I reach back in my memory, I think my last weigh-in at the end of October was 202 or something around there. It's pretty much been that. I've been going back and forth between like 198 and 202 forever. So that hasn't really changed at all. And I did take measurements. I was like 4 days late on them because, again, I just can't be bothered right now. But my measurements haven't really changed at all either. I did actually lose a tiny bit in my calves, which I'm always keeping an eye on because I feel like my calves are ginormous. And it's really nice, especially in boot season, to start seeing them finally go down. And I lost a little bit around my ankles. That was one of those that I started measuring just for funsies, and I've been amazed every time that there's a difference. But there's such thing as cankles, so it's a thing. But for the most part, not a lot of change in any of those departments. I'm pretty much staying the same as I have been for a while now, which is okay. And given what happened in October, I would say that that's probably really good, actually, that I haven't had much change in that department, because whoo, was I off base in October. Oh my, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But I'm getting that stuff together in a ball and locked down right now. So I'm going to start with the Halloween candy. That was the biggest thing this month. I can recall so many years in the past around this time of year, especially when I was in Weight Watchers and when I was dieting and all this stuff. It's like, how do you survive this time of year when you have a bowl full of candy that you're trying to give away to children and you're not trying to get into it? I've had a lot of strategies over the years. Last year, I didn't have any problems. We had a package of candy. I also had a bunch of sticky hands left over from something. I think they were stocking stuffers from years ago that I included in that. And we also gave out cotton candy, and it was fine. I had like really no temptations. I had a couple pieces of candy. This year things were drastically different. I'm not sure if it was just stress related. I think it's just, slightly related to stress, but also slightly related to the fact that I'm getting further and further away from surgery, which means that my mind is trying to find loopholes. And it's like, I'm going to try to push my luck. I'm going to try to, take a mile when I'm given an inch. So my brain was like, hey, we're on this no restrictive mentality, everything within moderation. I'm going to have a few pieces of this Halloween candy that's sitting around so that I have an opportunity to eat a few of these things that I usually don't eat. I don't eat candy bars. I don't keep those things in my house. So those fun size ones of assortments are just amazing. It's like on hand, you get a few bites of all the different candy bars that you never ever purchase. So that was my mentality. And I started realizing for the last couple of weeks in October that I was eating candy and making myself really sick and just putting up with that. And I had this moment where I was like, whoa, pump the brakes. What are you doing? Like, you are so sick feeling right now. And you were last night too. And you were yesterday afternoon also. Why are you doing this again? Do the Reese's peanut butter cups taste good? Because they make you feel like crap. So I started realizing that my brain was saying, we're moderating. So I started realizing that my brain was saying, we're moderating. We're having 2 or 3 of these mini candies a day after dinner, usually as like my dessert choice of the evening, and then making ourselves feel really sick and being like, oh, that really feels awful. Oh, I really wish I didn't do this. Oh my gosh, why does this make me feel so sick? And then doing it again the next day simply because I wanted to keep eating candy. I can't explain to you how big of a realization this was unless you've experienced this yourself. It may seem stupid. It may seem like a no-brainer. Like, if it's making you sick, stop eating it. This is my old brain. I should hesitate in saying my old brain because, again, my brain didn't change after surgery. My brain's been the same. Only my body changed after surgery. So this is the old mentality that I used to have that I was getting better at. And now I see myself slipping back into it. Eating things because I want to eat them. Eating things for the taste. Not realizing that it doesn't actually taste all that good. It's not actually all that satisfying. But doing it despite how it makes me feel, just for the sake of the fact that I want to do it. And it felt so freeing right after surgery when that wasn't something I was doing anymore. And I started realizing that I'm doing that again. Although I am not binge eating on candy and I'm eating way less candy than I ever would have prior to surgery, it's still a problem. It's still something that, if I'm eating 3 pieces at night and it's making me sick and that's not enough to make me stop eating this stupid candy, then what am I doing here? Once I made that realization, I told my fiance that we needed to get it out of the house because the problem was that it was just sitting there tempting me. And although I want to believe that I'm able to be stronger than what my brain wants, and now that I've clued this in, I won't reach for the candy, I don't necessarily know that that's the case. And I have learned over the years that there are some things I can do with moderation and it's great, and there are some things I just can't have in the house. And this is one of those situations. I just can't have some of these things in the house because obviously I'm going to eat them even if they make me feel sick. So I took out just a couple of the pieces that don't make me as sick. Like we had a couple Twizzlers left. I love Twizzlers and they don't seem to make me as sick as like the chocolate candy bars with the caramel and all of that stuff. That stuff was not sitting well with me. So I took a couple of those like free gummy ones out so that I could have like my last little, couple pieces of Halloween candy. But I bagged up the rest of it and I put it in my fiance's backpack. And I said, you have to take this to work and give this out to people at work, because I can't do this. I can't have this in the house. And if you'll notice some of the comments on that picture on the community tab post that I put, there are bags of Christmas candy on the table too that sneakily didn't make their way into the Halloween candy. Those have now been put into like a candy jar, and we have Christmas candy sitting around. But those have been put aside. I am way less likely to reach into those. Those are mostly for my fiance because he likes the fun gingerbread flavored Kit Kats. I'm saying that as if I don't love those. They're great. But also, like, the little Kit Kats for the gingerbread flavored ones are like this big, and they're just one. They're not like the little 2-packs that you get in the Halloween candies. So they're way easier to just eat one and like not have a problem. But that being said, I did get myself into the Rolos that are in there and made myself sick on Rolos. And I was like, you've got to just get out of the candy. Like, just stop eating candy. So my solution was to go to the store and buy those sugar-free shortbreads that I've shown on my channel before, and some sugar-free mint patties, the Russell Stover ones, and have a few things that I can turn to if I want something. That are they a healthy choice? No, but they're not going to make me sick. And that's the big problem here, is that even just a couple of pieces of this candy is making me sick. So they are smarter choices in that respect, and I am not going to overeat those types of things, especially because the sugar-free ones will make you sick in another way if you overeat them. And I never have a problem. I don't eat like, a million of those sugar-free, the mint patties or anything like that. It's that stuff that you don't get very often, where you're reaching for the Christmas tree shaped Reese's cups because they taste better. And you just happen to have these things on hand that you never get access to. So I have nipped that in the bud. I seem for the last few days to be in a better situation and not be turning towards that candy, not reaching for it, not having any of it. This afternoon with a glass of tea, I had a couple of the little shortbread cookies and felt happy, never even thought about reaching for the candy. But boy, was that a realization that I really can't be trusted around certain things like that. So big realization. And the second thing that really took hold the last few weeks of October is that I was drinking a lot. In full disclosure, it was too much, and it was problematic. And I realized that I do turn to that sometimes, especially when I'm really, really stressed. And that's not a good coping skill. That's like arguably one of the worst things that you can do to cope. But as I've talked about transfer addiction and things before, that's something that can get even worse if you start to realize that you're turning to that instead of food to cope with stressful situations or to cope with emotions. And I know that I would do that sometimes. I know that I would I had such a horrible week, and I'd, make a drink or something. But I was realizing when I got done putting on a pretty big work conference and I was really stressed out and really glad it was over and just wanted to relax and let loose, I was turning towards alcohol to help me feel that relaxation and to help me handle that, uncomfortable, stressful situation. And so I had a couple of times this month where I just kind of overdid it and I did not feel well afterwards. There's only so much you can do when it comes to drinking and not overdoing it after bypass, partially because it just physically affects me so quickly and so easily now. So 2 drinks puts me in a good spot. 3 or 4 drinks puts me over the edge. And if you're drinking socially with people, drinking different kinds of things, I was having hard ciders. I was having wine because bottles of wine were being purchased at the table. I was enjoying cocktails. I mean, there's in a social situation, it's tough. For me, I think that's more tough than the food situation. I know a lot of people are worried about social get-togethers and being the odd one out when it comes to the way that you eat compared to everyone else at the table. I have not found that to be problematic. Really, nobody seems to comment on it. I have not found it to be super awkward. But what I have found is that in social situations, especially if you're in a group of people who like to drink and can drink, one of the groups I was with this last month can hold their liquor. Holy cow. And my attempts to socialize and keep up with them and have fun led to me just overdoing it, not feeling good, feeling like I, was putting myself in a weird situation. So that's something that I am taking note of, especially going into the holiday season, when this is pretty much the only time of year that I do start to drink a little bit more. There's fun holiday cocktails and get-togethers and things. So I'm just going to be keeping an eye on that. And I want to be transparent on this channel. This is something that I've always wanted to share every aspect of my journey. We've talked about transfer addiction and being cautious about it. I have talked about and filmed myself drinking a little bit, imbibing on the membership side of the channel, but it's not something that I've ever really realized or talked about being directly something that I need to work on and I need to keep an eye on. And that's one of them. That and shopping. And I've noticed that the last couple of years since surgery around this time of year, shopping for gifts is like, man, that is a rush of endorphins. I find myself very easily spending money this time of year, be it on myself or on other people, as an excuse. And that is something that I know other people have had issues with transfer addiction with, compulsive shopping and overspending. So both of those things are things that I am noticing that I am gravitating to sometimes. And so I want to be mindful of that so that I can pull it back and make sure that that doesn't become a problem. That's the big point here, is I don't want it to become a problem. Right now it's like a little red flag. I don't want it to become a problem. So we're gonna watch this little red flag and try to be mindful of what we're doing. As you can probably guess, if I was really stressed out and I was really busy this last month, I also ate out a lot more than I normally would have. We did a lot of takeout, and especially the last week or so, we ate a lot of takeout. And one of the things that I'm realizing with the takeout is, although most of the time I make an okay choice and it's not particularly unhealthy, other than, I didn't make it myself, so you don't exactly know what's in it. And a lot of times restaurant food is going to be higher in sodium or fat or, some of these other things where I can control some of that if I make it myself. Even the best of choices is still takeout. But my portions are still always really small. And so I end up having these things, these takeout meals for 2, 3, 4 meals at a time. And then I just have food around all the time. I was noticing the last week and a half or so, we would order takeout and it would take me 2, 3, 4 days to go through it. And then by the time I'm through those leftovers, we're already contemplating getting takeout again because, for my fiance and like the rest of the world, it's been several days, which is still too often. But I was just going back to back to back with takeout because things take so long to go through. And that's something I really need to get more control of when I'm stressed out. Meal planning or having some sort of backup plan really needs to be a focus of mine, because I will have this takeout and it'll say be a moment of weakness that I'm like, we're gonna go and get teriyaki, and I do that, and now I'm having teriyaki for days. And so what would have been like a one day, done and moving on situation now becomes, a week of me eating poorly. So that's something that I also noticed that I really want to get control of. It seems like from me saying all of this stuff at once that I was absolutely out of control this month. And there were a lot of good things that happened and a lot of mindfulness that I also practiced this month. So it's just that it's all condensed into one spiel that makes it sound really, really bad. One of the things that I'm going to be coming out with in the next couple of weeks is a video where I was working on my stress management. And throughout the month, I actually got way better control of that. I did find really good, healthy ways to manage that. I don't really want to spoil that video too much, But there were some really positive things that happened this month too. Some huge changes that I've made in my routines and just how I'm feeling in general. So this month I think can be summed up as me having these realizations and realizing I was going too far in one direction and finding some really positive ways to bring that back and kind of get myself realigned. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm out of control. Okay, no, hold on. I got this. Let's level this out and get back to the basics and make sure that I, can keep this under control. And that's something that fortunately, unfortunately, it depends on how you look at it, is my reality. And that's what I'm going to probably have to do for a lifetime, because as much as I would love to get the surgery and it's a magic fix and I never have problems again, it's just not realistic. It's not going to happen. All I can do is work on my mindfulness and being able to catch myself doing these things earlier and earlier before they become problems for too long. And I feel like I've done really well with that. Every time I notice something like this, it really was only a week or so before I kind of got things back on track and was like, no, I don't want to go in this direction. And I feel like that's way better than what I had done in the past. So being mindful, being able to recognize my patterns, knowing myself well enough that I can recognize my patterns and put a stop to it and implement things that are healthy and implement boundaries and move forward is the best that I can do. Because this is something I've struggled with my whole life and surgery doesn't inherently fix. So I'm going to have to make sure that I'm watching how I'm coping with my stress and I'm watching what my inclinations are, just without thinking. What are the things that I do inherently that I don't really think about? Because those are usually bad. Okay, that may have been an overstatement, but sometimes when you're acting on impulse, they're not always from a good place. So being mindful and being able to understand that part of me is key to my long-term success. I feel like especially these monthly update videos are really where I like to delve in deep and give you guys something really meaningful and in a good representation of how things went for that month, especially this late after surgery, keeping it in mind that there are still realizations and changes and things like this going on. I usually like to present that in a very professional, well thought out way, but this is what I am today. This is what I am for the last week or so. And honestly, I am working with my therapist and I'm working on the mental health side of my journey. As you all know, I don't shut up about that. This is all about my mental health and getting myself in a good space there. This really isn't about the food. It's about why I turned to the things that I turn to. And one of the things I've been working on is these expectations that I put on myself in a lot of situations in life. And this is one of them. I don't really have an expectation to produce these videos in a certain way on any certain time schedule. I don't really have that in my life, although I certainly impose that upon myself. And I have a very high standard for what I want to do and put out there. And when I don't meet that standard, I spiral. So this is a good exercise for me to just put something out. As the book that I'm reading right now says, I'm just trying to be good enough now. I'm trying to be the best that I can and do the best that I can now, sometimes, with what I've got. Because it's better than doing nothing, never. So that's the mantra that I'm trying to repeat to myself lately, is just do the best that I can sometimes with what I've got and be good enough now. And I think that that's an important message, and it's really been resonating with me lately. So I hope that it resonates with you too. Hey, Editing Stephanie here. I wanted to pop in just to reiterate something because I feel like this video ended up being a lot more negative, or at least focused on a lot more of the negative things that I experienced this month and felt a little bit heavy. I want to reiterate something that was just occurring to me when I was editing stuff, which is that this is the longest I have ever gone without regaining weight. So although there is definite frustration when it comes to the fact that I haven't lost weight in a really long time, and frustration with the fact that some of these old habits are coming back. I'm fighting them all the time, and I'm trying to deal with that mental side of that. In the past, when I would deal with those, intrusive food thoughts or those bad habits or things that would come up, it would be in conjunction with a pretty rapid weight gain. So I just want to reiterate how absolutely happy and relieved I am, and how life-changing it is at this point that I am maintaining my weight. I don't think I say that enough on this channel. I have never been in this spot before. I've never been in the spot where I can't lose weight, but I'm also not gaining weight. I've also never been in the spot where, although I should probably medically and for another couple of reasons lose some more weight before I, call it quits and say I'm done, I am very happy with where I'm at, with where I've landed 2 years post-op. I've never been this happy and comfortable with my body and my physical ability. I can't even quite put into words how that feels and what that's like. So I just wanted to pop on and make sure that you guys know that that is a huge, shining, wonderful light in my life right now. That despite these things that I'm going through, when I am really stressed, when I am turning to bad habits, when I am struggling to find appropriate coping mechanisms and, ways to just deal with the stresses of life, I am not gaining weight as a result of it, which has been my pattern my whole life. So I just wanted to leave you with that little nugget of information. Because I forgot to do it in the beginning, if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for continuing to support my videos. I really appreciate it. If you're not yet a subscriber, but you find yourself coming back to my videos, watching my content, enjoying the things that I'm putting out in terms of my experience after my surgery, I just ask that you consider hitting the subscribe button if you want to continue to support the channel. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much in advance. And as usual, stay happy and healthy and always look at the big picture, and I will see you guys in the next one.